Heyo, welcome once again to the upgrade. My name is Gary Muttley, and I am joined by the one and only
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios.
Hey, Len. So, this is going to be a little different because since we've been getting a lot of good feedback, we are actually going to throw out the occasional bonus episode. So, you're going to get 2 episodes in 1 week.
Ooh.
So,
the bonus.
A little extra for your money, which you're not.
I wish somebody would throw me. I wish somebody would throw me some money.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to throw us some money, we can work that out. So,
I'm not shaking anything. It's just free money in my direction. If you're sending, I'm taking.
Yeah, it's a little bonus. We're holding up our end of the deal, so throw us a couple of bucks. So, today on this little bonus episode, we are going to talk about this past weekend's UFC 251.
Fight Island.
Yes, the debut of Fight Island. If you don't
ridiculous. Know, it's so ridiculous. Like, we're gonna make a whole island for fighting. I mean, it's it's kind of funny, it's kind of cool, and it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, if you don't know, the Ultimate Fighting Championship with coronavirus and all the mess that's going on, especially when it comes to international travel and things like that, Dana White basically made a deal to create Fight Island in Abu Dhabi and put the guys over there, the guys and girls who are going to fight, keep them isolated, keep them on a private island and not have to worry about all the travel restrictions and stuff like that, and basically do a bunch of fight cards over there.
So, I mean, just to get to the island, there are only a few designated airports that are able to fly there. And to get on the plane, you have to pass multiple COVID tests just to be able to fly. So, newsflash, there's still people testing positive, and Gilbert Burns, who was supposed to be the headline fight versus Kamaru Usman, tested positive along with his coach Greg Jones. And we're talking less than a week out on this fight. So then they had to scramble to find a headliner, which we'll get to in a little bit. But it's like they're going above and beyond to do the testing, but with that testing you are pulling up people that are popping positive. So it's better for them that they're catching them before they get to the island, especially because the United Arab Emirates are like, hey, don't bring anybody here that has it. We've got this under lockdown and we don't want you fucking up our numbers. So once they get to the island, they're not allowed to actually leave the island unless they're flying out. That's it. So they're basically quarantined on this new island. And
well, I'm reading up on this, and according to Wikipedia, there is a 10 square mile safety zone on the island restricted to essential personnel.
Yep. And that's
which
it.
Includes the hotels, restaurants, and a training cage on the beach.
Oh, man.
How's that for a vacation?
Hot and sweaty.
But yeah, this is all part of, and we talked about it on the episode that went live this week, that we recorded a couple weeks ago. It's all part of this whole thing of these guys pushing to do these sporting events. Even if they don't have a crowd, it's just like they're desperate to pump out these fucking sporting events.
Well, I think in the UFC's case, the problem is that they are now a traded company and they have financial backers. And if they do not produce the right amount of content for ESPN by the end of the year, they're going to take a hit. And then if they take a hit, their investors take a hit. So it behooves them to try and get as many events in as possible so that either they reach that number that they're supposed to have or get damn close so they can say, hey, there was a pandemic, we were impacted, but we still worked through, and maybe it's not as big a deal. I understand why they're doing it, but for me, if it was me and I was a fighter, I'd be like, I'm not fighting. I'm not doing this. I'm going to just chill because I'm not trying to catch COVID and die. But some people need the money. Some people are company men. So here we are. There's an event. And, the UFC's had, 6 events in the last 8 weeks or something like that?
Something like that.
And
I mean WWE had the same kind of issue because there was a lot of talk about they have their TV deals, and if they don't meet a certain amount of original programming, that they might be in violation of these TV deals. But, same kind of thing in a way. And then I don't know how it works with the team sports. It's probably a similar concern there. Team sports are a little different. WWE is another traded company. But, look, the team sport's not working out too well because they're talking about doing this and that. And then, oh, hey, another 10 guys tested positive.
Right.
So,
well, right now, from what I heard, that, the Phillies and pretty much all the teams are going to be playing the empty stadiums.
Yeah.
And, again, much like going to a fight or watching a fight on TV, it's a little bit weird to watch a sporting event that's supposed to, or at least we're used to, having a crowd there because it adds that fourth dimension to the workings. So it's like somebody gets knocked out and there's no one cheering. It's a little bit fucking weird, man.
Definitely. And I think they feel it more. Yeah, I was gonna say I think they feel it more with the combat sports and like pro wrestling because, when you put these guys out there solo and it's 1-on-1, or
that's your
with wrestling like tag teams or whatever, especially wrestling because they really feed off the reactions of the crowd. But just even with the 1-on-1s with the UFC stuff, it's like, you see some of these knockouts and stuff like that, and you really wish you had that crowd because that reaction is a big part of it.
Right, like me yelling alone in my living room is just not it. That's just not it.
Yeah, and like the two coaches in the corner yelling is definitely not the same.
Also, without the crowd noise, all the coaching is truly audible to everyone. Like when you got 2 sets of coaches yelling across the octagon and there's no crowd noise to create that like buffer zone of
that kind of white noise.
Yeah. So then it's like exactly what they're going to do and they know exactly what you're going to do and they can hear your coach. So you better have really good code words or just be so good that it doesn't matter that your opponent knows what your coach is telling you what the fuck to do.
Yeah, Bisping was making some comments about that at different points during the fight because some of the coaches were especially animated, let's say. Yeah. And Bisping was riffing off some comments about that were pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm going to get to those comments in one specific fight, but I would say that I agree with him. So, there were 13 fights on this card. And I would say going into it, I only cared about 5, maybe 6 at most.
I would say I wasn't, off the bat, I will admit to you, and I know you'll talk about it, and I'll just kind of follow your lead on it. I didn't get the chance to watch the prelims. I only watched the 5 fights on the main card.
Well, I found myself sitting on the couch on Saturday afternoon, and I happened to just look up at 6 o'clock when the fights were starting and said, hey, I can just put on ESPN Plus on my phone and watch it while whatever else is going on the TV is going. So I just tuned in, and then all of a sudden I'm watching it on the main TV because I just Chromecasted it straight in. Thank God for the Chromecast. Big ups to Google. So the first fight was Davey Grant versus Martin Day. It was not over quick. It was actually a 3-round fight, and it was not a war, but it was a solid fight. And then all of a sudden, Davey Grant turned Martin Day's lights out, fully out, just sleeping. And I'm like, holy shit, didn't see that coming, because it was like halfway through the last round. And at that point, they had been beating each other up. but nobody looked even in trouble. And then all of a sudden, my man is asleep, and I'm like,
wow.
oh fuck, this guy is done. But if you're gonna go back and watch a fight on the prelims, like the early prelims, this is the fight to watch. The next 3 fights, skip them. So we got Carol Rosa versus Vanessa Mello. Carol Rosa won. It's a catchweight fight because she missed weight, and it was a dumb decision fight.
People are still missing weight.
Oh, just wait. The next fight is also a catchweight fight because somebody else missed weight. I think it was Raulin Pavia who missed weight. He did win against Jaglas Zhumavglov, and he's a new. That's a mouthful. Yeah, it's a total mouthful. And he's new to the UFC. It was another 3-round decision. It was a unanimous decision, but it was clear that one guy won two rounds and the other guy won 1 round. Like, there was nothing special about that fight. The next fight was another just slog through 3 rounds of nonsense. And honestly, if I never see Marcin Tybura or Maxim Grishin fight again, I'll be perfectly happy. It was a heavyweight fight, and you know what heavyweights look like in the 3rd round. And, like,
slow motion.
Well, Grishin is really a 205er, so he weighed in at 225, and Tybura couldn't get him out of there coming into the fight close to 260. And I'm like, bro, throw some bombs. Like, do something. All he did was lean on him. That was like his whole entire game. And I'm like, this is boring. So I was kind of like in and out of the fight.
Did they run out of gas?
I mean, they're heavyweights. They ran out of gas.
Yeah, that's exactly.
They ran out of gas. I'm talking mid-second round, they're out of gas.
That's usually what happens. The heavyweights hit the middle of that second round, and it's like slow motion. It's like watching Sid Vicious wrestle.
So there are heavyweights out there that are able to carry themselves through multiple rounds, but they're few and far between. Most, just once they get out of round 1, it just starts to roll to a fucking... It's like watching honey pour out of a jar. It's just like the slowest shit you ever seen.
Man, that's the worst.
I'm like, if either of you had a gas tank, this could be over. Either one of you. But instead, I had to sit through that. So the less said, the better. Next fight is it's on the actual prelim card, not the early one, and it's Leonardo Santos versus Roman Bogatov. It was a good fight. Santos came out and he had gas tank. It was a lightweight fight, and he had gas tank for 2 rounds, and then he just started to teeter off, and Bogatov almost got him by the end of round 3. It was, it was a lightweight fight. It was exactly what you expected, and Santos is one of those guys who's really good at what he does until he's tired, and then once he's tired, he's a sitting duck.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't tell you that you should run out and see that fight, but it was interesting. Featherweight fights next. Makwan Amirkhani versus Danny Henry. I don't know Danny Henry, but I know Makwan Amirkhani. My problem with him is that he doesn't fight often enough. I think his last fight was in, like, 2018, so he's been gone for, like, 2 years. And every time I see him, I'm like, man, this kid is good. He secured yet another anaconda choke. He did it within 1 round, 3 minutes in. I mean, literally, Danny Henry took him down, and out of nowhere, Amirkhani is just choking this guy, and he actually put him all the way to sleep, to the point where Amirkhani jumps up and grabs his legs to try and get him to come back from it, because nobody else was helping him at the time. And, like, as a great sportsman, he jumped up and helped his opponent.
So I got to say, Amirkhani did fight twice in 2019.
He did. Okay. Yeah. Before that was 2017?
No, he did have. He only had 1 fight in 2018. He fought twice in 2019. He fought Chris Fishgold and actually got Performance of the Night.
Okay.
In June, and then in November,
he
lost
a year ago.
He lost to Shane Burgos in November at UFC 244 in New York City.
Must have been on the undercard. I must have missed it, and I just didn't know he was on it.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. That was a prelim fight at the Garden.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see it.
That was the Diaz. That was the Diaz Masvidal card.
I was doing something. I think I was playing a show that night, so I didn't even get to see. I think I was in Brooklyn that night playing a show.
Yeah,
and I didn't actually even get to see any of that card.
Yeah, I saw the main card, but I didn't see the prelims from that fight.
So my apologies, Americani, but still, I think you could fight more than once or twice in a year.
If
they book them.
So
then the next fight was a welterweight fight versus Muslim Salikov versus Elizeu Dos Santos. Honestly, I had the fight going for Dos Santos. I thought he had done enough to get the win. The judging on the night was a little suspect, in my opinion.
I mean,
and this
judging in general can be a little suspect.
It's just suspect. So, like, looking back, sure, was it a clear-cut victory for Dos Santos? No, but I thought he won the first 2 rounds. So, it is what it is. But I'm not telling you need to run out and watch this fight. Last fight on the prelims leading into the main card is a light heavyweight fight with newcomer Porchaka versus Volkan Ozdemir. And honestly, all through round 1, Ozdemir was tagging this kid, and he's doing all this weird shit with his hands. Honestly, if you get a chance to check this fight out, it's interesting. But, like, it's interesting because the kid is literally on another mental plane somewhere. Like, he's doing Keith Jardine-esque hand movement and head movement, but he's also kind of pulling in the whole not actually looking at you piece, where he's like not even paying attention. He's like looking at the clock. He's looking at his coaches. He's looking off in the distance, and he's like just not giving Ozdemir any credit at all. And Ozdemir is fucking tagging him, and at one point he definitely wobbled him. I don't care if this guy says he never got hurt. This dude's legs were almost full stanky.
Wow.
And I'm like, yo, this guy is going out in the second round. There's no way he's gonna make it through this. And even my friends are texting me. They're like, yo, this kid's about to get fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, bro, you're right. He's getting it. And then comes out, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, blasts Ozdemir out, dead cold. I thought the man was dead. I mean, he literally he just knocked him completely out of his socks. And I'm like, this dude's shoes are on the train tracks, and he's dead right here. Like, Ozdemir was out so hard or so cold that when they did the rundown of the fight, he's still sitting on the stool because he couldn't even get up to have the other guy's hand raised. He was so out of it.
Oof.
Yeah. And like, he's not bleeding. Like, it wasn't one of those. It was just his light shut out.
Oh, so, I just watched it. Oh,
yo,
man.
Yeah, bro.
Oh.
Like, he hit him with a murder ball.
That dude's head went flying into the first row.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, looking at that fight, they're trying to rush this kid into the top 10 now. And he's got some experience, and he turned down coming to the UFC a couple of years ago because he felt like he wasn't ready, and he said that he was only going to come here when he was ready. So I guess he thinks he's ready now. And they're talking about fast-tracking him into a fight with John Jones. And you know what? That's dumb. Whoa. Get the hell out of here.
Whoa.
You need to win a couple more fights before I want to even think about that. There are a number of guys that you need to go on and fight in this division before I'll even personally accept that fight. I'm not the guy that's signing these checks, so it doesn't really matter. But me looking at it from an outsider fan perspective, that makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, why would you want to blow that load that quick?
It is dumb. It doesn't make any sense at all. build him up, like make him an actual star. Knocking out Ozdemir, even though Ozdemir has never been knocked out before, and he's only been submitted maybe once or twice, and usually he just loses by decision. Yeah, that's nice that you knocked him out, but bro, you still got some heavy hitters you need to get through before you can get to that mega boss. And let's be honest, John Jones is a mega boss. Ain't nobody solved him yet. The only person that has solved him was Steve Mazzagatti. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I do not like the dude, I can't take that away from him. But the reasons I don't like him have nothing to do with his performance in the octagon.
Yeah, me either. I mean, yeah, you'd be hard pressed to get me to tell you that I'm a John Jones fan, but I can't deny that the man is good at fighting.
Right.
There's no denying it. Like, he's arguably one of the best fighters of all time.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the best boxer. He's not the best kickboxer. He's not the best jiu-jitsu guy. But in a fight where you can use any options available to you, he's probably easily top 3, if not number 1.
Yep.
Like, you're talking about like the murderer's row of people he's gone through, whether they were kind of over the hill or not over the hill at all. It doesn't matter. Like, he's gone through anybody that was put in front of him and come out the other end. I mean, you beat Daniel Cormier twice and just embarrassed him both times.
Made him cry.
Cormier is, again, another guy that I'm not a big fan of, but he's a legit fighter. Right. Like, top 10 of all time fighters. Like, he's gone through everybody but John Jones. So it is what it is. So then that brings us to the main card, and that's where you pick up with this because you got a chance to catch fights.
Because I did watch all 5 of these fights. The show starts off with a women's flyweight fight, Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zandt.
And I love Paige Van Zandt. I do. I think that she has all the tools that would be necessary, but her departure from Uriah Faber's gym, under whatever pretense it happened, really fucked with her trajectory because she's just not getting the ground time, the mat time that she needs to progress. And it showed in spades against Amanda Ribas because she got run through by someone that's a strawweight.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was not a good fight for her.
It wasn't even competitive.
No. It was not a good fight for her at all. She got dominated from early on, and
it's the last fight on her contract.
And Dana's already burying her.
Yep.
And she made some comments about how she's making more money on Instagram than she is from fighting.
Yeah, I mean, she said that between the dancing show and everything else, she was like, I could have made more money just doing a regular job than what I've made in all these fights across, what is it, like 5 or 6, 7 years that she's been fighting. She's like, it's the same as if I just worked a regular job. And that's fine, but there's a limit to what you should say in public if you care about keeping your job. And maybe she just doesn't care anymore, and that's fine.
I mean, it certainly seems like it, and I don't blame her, but then, you know what? Just go.
Just retire.
Because you're not helping yourself at all.
At all. Zero.
With a performance like this, you're definitely not helping yourself at all. Go back to dancing or Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, just do you, boo.
And I'm not taking anything away from her. She's had some good fights, but it's just, as we've seen with other fighters,
when it's time to go.
When it's time to go, and it's definitely time to go when your head is just not in the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're too busy thinking about the money you're making off Instagram or some other shit, like, just move on. Because
something else is calling your name. Just do it. Do that.
Because having lousy performances like this isn't helping you, and there's plenty of other people waiting to take that spot.
Yep.
So let somebody else step in there and do their thing, because at this point, you're just the Brooklyn Brawler at this point. You know, like
Call in the clowns.
You're just Iron Mike Sharp. Like you're just a jobber.
So Amanda Ribas, I have only maybe seen one of her previous fights, but the ferocity in which she tried to rip Paige Van Zandt's arm off made me interested in watching her again, because that's what I want to see, is that somebody is out there. I don't care if you're grappling. What I want to know is, are you trying to fucking win? And she's clearly trying to win at all times based on just what I saw.
Well, you know me. I've always said it's like I don't want to see all this points bullshit. Like,
yep.
I want to see people going for it. And that was the kind of performance that I'm talking about. And just looking at her, because I'm not really familiar with her either, but this is her fourth UFC fight.
I think she's won previously.
She's undefeated.
Yep.
She's only got one
up to flyweight for this. I mean, it's only 10 pounds, but still.
She's only got one loss in her career. She's got 10 wins, 1 loss total in her MMA career, because she fought a lot down in Brazil until she signed with the UFC.
What I heard is that she said recently that she wants to be the next 2-belt champion in the UFC. She said that she wants to do what Nunes did, which is capture one and then jump up and capture the next one. And you know what? If she has, I mean, we didn't really get to see her hands in this, but if she has hands and feet at all to go along with her jiu-jitsu practitioner work, I don't see why it's impossible for her. I mean, it's going to be hard to jump up and take that flyweight title, because, I mean, let's be honest, the flyweight champion is a goddamn beast. But, you know,
I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see more.
Let's get it going.
Because this fight was only not even 2.5 minutes.
Yep.
So, you know, let's see her fight again and have some more time. A couple of those other fights she had, 2 were unanimous decisions. Her first fight was a rear naked choke in the second round.
Okay.
But apparently she's had, you know, with her record before that, she's won 10 fights, 3 by knockout, 4 by submission, 3 by decision.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah,
at all.
she's got a nice little assortment there between knockouts, submissions, and then going the distance once in a while, which I'm never a big fan of, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, all right, if you're going the distance in a fight, I don't have a problem with you going the distance if you just got a tough son of a bitch in front of you.
Right.
Like, when I'm watching a fight and, you know, it's one of those guys like Joe Lazon, and the guy can't get Joe Lazon out of there, I'm like, as long as you were trying, I'm fine with that, because I know Joe is a tough son of a bitch. Yeah. And he's not going to quit regardless of whether he's losing the fight or not. So, like, the idea that a decision is bad isn't really a big deal to me until it becomes your calling card. And that's all you're known for is decisions. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that in a few
for sure.
minutes.
For sure. But, I mean, I've always said, you know, if you're sitting there and you're worried about points and stuff like that, that's not the fighter I'm a fan of. I've never been a fan of that. I want to see guys try to finish fights.
Yep.
I want to see guys hungry to finish fights one way or another, whether it's striking or submissions, whatever.
Whatever. Make the dude quit on the stool. I don't give a shit. Outwork him to the point where he can't even bear to get back up and fight you another minute. Like, I just be decisive.
Exactly. But just to wrap that up, you know, Dana White talking shit about Paige Van Zandt, so I guess she won't be re-signing. So that'll be that.
Or he'll re-sign her at some, like, cheap price that she won't take. So, you know, he'll offer her some penance, but no actual real contract.
That's standard UFC at this point. But I mean, UFC is in obvious trouble. I mean, partly understandable because of all the COVID stuff, but I mean, we could talk about.
The problem is they're not building any stars. They're not building any stars. So it's just like over and over again, churn, and nobody's coming to the top. I mean, your biggest star is John Jones, and even he's half out the door right now because you're not paying him enough.
Exactly.
So you got a long way to go to get through this and get back to a point where you are the top. I mean, obviously there aren't any other entities that are ready to just take over and be the top dog, but they're in trouble regardless.
Well, I compare it all the time, but it's a valid comparison because WWE is the same way. It's like they have their one or two hand-picked stars, and everybody else, like, nobody stands out.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you've got 10 guys that if you really put some work into them, they could be something.
Right.
And the UFC has just gotten to the point where it's the same thing, where it's just this, it's like an assembly line, and they're just pushing it out. Nobody cares. Nobody's interested. I mean, UFC, honestly, part of the problem is that they do so many cards now.
Yep.
Whether COVID or not, they're still just pushing out
fucking cards out.
Constant cards, and it's like, you know what?
They would be smarter.
I can't miss you if you don't go away.
They would be smarter to reinstate the WEC, honestly, and put all these sub cards on WEC cards. Right. So that when you're watching the UFC, you are getting the top quality. These are the people that made it back out of the WEC, which is your own personal feeder league. Set up your own farm system, basically, to let these people get these slightly higher profile fights without having to put the UFC name on it. The UFC name should be literally the pinnacle of fighting, and every single fucking card should be packed to the gills with fucking awesome fights, because that's how it used to be.
Exactly, because it used to be, okay, it's a UFC show, you're going to get some good fights, but now they're pumping out one a week because they got so many guys signed, and they got to keep these guys working.
Sometimes they got two in a week.
How many different weight classes now? So they got to have something from every weight class. So it's just there's nothing special about it anymore. Yep, they're just pumping it out, and it's
basically like a baseball season now. Not every fucking fight matters.
But stuff like that is why you don't, like you said, you don't have any guys standing out. You don't have, look, back in the day, I won't go all the way back to the beginning, but, of when UFC, the early days of when UFC was more sports-oriented. Guys like Chuck Liddell and Tito. You had guys like that you could put them on TV, on a mainstream TV show, and people know who they are. They're a household name.
You got almost nobody right now that you can.
Nobody. Because Conor McGregor's in and out.
Yep.
But John Jones, you don't want to put. He's not a mainstream star just because he's got so many charges on him. It's like
you screwed himself on that.
You can't put him on Good Morning America.
Nope. And you can't put Conor McGregor. That dude is a ticking time bomb.
Exactly.
When it comes to something coming out about him, whether it's beating up old men in a bar, or if you want to get into it, potentially raping someone or multiple someones
or
in various locations, or throwing
a hand
trucks through bus windows. He's too live wire to put out there as the face of your company. Great, you can make money on him being quote unquote the great white hype, but that's about it. He's clearly not the best fighter in the world, because we've seen him lose a number of times to various people who maybe even not be the greatest people either.
Right.
He lost to an aging boxer. He lost to Diaz. He almost lost to Diaz a second time, and if that fight was even 10 seconds longer, he was done.
He was done.
He was done. Mm-hmm. And he lost to probably the greatest lightweight of all time, Khabib. So, like, you guys can miss me with the bullshit about him being the greatest. He's a great promoter. He does exactly what he needs to do to put butts in the seat. I can't argue that fact, but as an actual fighter, I'm good on that.
Right, he's more mouth than hands, is the bottom line.
Clearly, he's a top level fighter. I'm not saying he doesn't have skills, but he's not the best.
Right.
So, anyway.
So let's bring this back. Next fight is Thug Rose versus Jessica Andrade. And what I said about decisions, how I generally don't like decisions because a lot of times it's just points.
This is not one of those times.
This is not one of those fights.
This is not one of those fights.
This fight
knock 'em, drag 'em, everything.
Phenomenal fucking fight.
If you're looking for a 3-round fight that provides you with action the entire fucking time, go watch this fight.
Oh yeah, it's a great fight.
I know that there are people out there still that are like, oh, I don't want to watch girls fight. Fuck that. Watch this fight. This fight is a technical fighter fighting a bully. And they each have their moments. And, I mean, if this fight went even one more round, Jessica Andrade was going to definitely win this fucking fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Rose was lumped up. She went into that third round looking like gold, and she came out.
Oh yeah, she got bipped up in round 3. But
badly.
You know what? I'm a big fan of Rose because she always brings it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another female fighter that you can say has that same fire that she does.
Shevchenko.
Okay.
Those are the only two that I'm going to say. And I would say that Joanna Jędrzejczyk had it.
Yeah,
but she no longer had it.
I think she started to depend a little too much on her mouth.
Yep.
And that's the problem. She decided she was going to be a pro wrestler.
Even in loss, Rose Namajunas has never let me down.
That's what I was just going to say, that even in the fights that she's lost, she still brought that fire.
Yep. And
I've never seen her have a bad fight.
That nickname of Thug is completely true because there is no quit in that girl.
No. None.
She is coming to win. I mean, she even talked about the fight where she lost to Andrade. I think it was about exactly a year ago, and she was just like, I was winning that fight until I wasn't. And I wasn't even interested in the fight. But I got to do what I got to do. I signed the contract, so I'm out there. Let's do it. And honestly, if you had told me that she had trained and was 100% on board for that fight, I would believe you because, I mean, she was putting work in on Andrade in fight 1. And, she got caught sleeping on a pickup and didn't get her head inside and got dropped right on her damn head. I think if that specific fight had gone all 5 rounds, she would have worked her the whole entire time. But
she was definitely in trouble in round 3.
But this fight, she was definitely in trouble in round 3, and I think maybe she just got a little tired.
Yep.
And she stopped with being on top of her defense. But great fight, 100%. If you're looking for pure action, this is a fight for people to watch.
And it ended with a split decision, and I'm fine with that because it was a hell of a good fight, and it really could have gone either way.
I mean, I would argue that Namajunas won rounds 1 and 2. She was pretty dominant in both of them. Clearly, a judge disagreed with me, but as we talked about earlier, the judges are really fucking bad these days. So, what am I going to say?
I won't even fault the judges because to me it was close.
Yeah, I mean, it was a close fight for sure.
So I wouldn't, I will always knock the judges, but in this case, I'll leave it alone because I can't complain about this decision.
Yeah, I mean, if they had read off the cards and said that Andrade had won, I would have been a little surprised, but I wouldn't have been yelling robbery.
Yeah, but that third round was definitely not for Rose. It was
Not at all.
Because she got bipped up pretty bad.
Bad. I mean, her eye looked fucking terrible.
Because I watched the fight on Monday during the day. I watched the card, and I had seen a picture of Rose, and I was very surprised when she went into round 3. She didn't look like that.
She looked fresh.
And I knew what she looked like afterwards, and I was like, oh, man.
Oh, no. What happened?
This is going to be the round.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was. All right, so next, bantamweight fight. Peter Yan from Russia fighting Jose Aldo.
The king of Brazil.
And
you know what? I don't even really want to talk about the actual fight. What I want to talk about is Jose Aldo and the fact that it's time.
That's what I was just going to say.
Like,
I think the clock has
run out
out for Jose Aldo.
So, yes, probably the greatest featherweight of all time. I don't want to hear about Max Holloway or Volkanovski being the greatest featherweight, at least not yet. Neither one of them have dominated the way that Jose Aldo dominated that division for close to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to hear about it until they get to that point. And I don't care that both of them have beaten Jose Aldo. They beat him towards the end of his career. They didn't beat him in the full prime.
No, definitely not in the prime.
He has struggled in the past to make 145, and now he's dropped down to 135. So, bantamweight title fight. He looked physically good, and for the first 2.5 rounds, he was on fire. I was surprised watching this fight. But as the fight wore on, youth took hold, and Jose Aldo started to fade. And by the middle of the 5th round, well, I'm going to say by the middle of the 4th round, you knew that the fight was over, and it was just when Yan was going to catch him.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time because this didn't actually go the distance.
Nope.
It ended 3:24 into the last round. Round 5.
You had about a minute and a half left. So It's like, but you're watching it, and honestly, they could have stopped that fight 2 minutes before that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and I think somebody on comment, it might have been Bisping, might have been saying that also on commentary.
I mean, he's just in there taking damage with. I mean, I would argue that he probably take 45 punches with almost no defense other than turtling and rolling from his back to his stomach and his stomach to his back.
Yeah, like it was over.
No defense, but it's because he didn't want to quit. He wanted them to stop the fight without him actually tapping out.
Yeah, I think he was expressing verbally at some point that he didn't want to stop, that he wanted to keep going, because I remember them mentioning that.
But you know what? They should have stopped that fight. And not because I don't feel like he was taking like insurmountable damage. It's that incremental damage that he was taking that, at his age and experience and just fight age, because there's, at 43, I haven't taken the amount of punches these guys have taken. I'm not in there in the training room getting punched all year and then going out and fighting somebody that's literally trying to take my head off.
Right.
So, Jose Aldo's been fighting for 15 or so years at this point.
16 years. I just looked it up. His first fight was in 2004.
So, he's taken a number of punches. And, he just didn't need to take that last minute and a half of just absolute beating for no reason.
No, definitely not. Those last couple of strikes,
it was
completely pointless. There was nothing to be. He's not going to win the fight. Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just pointless. Just adding to his bump card just for no reason.
It's not Rocky. He's not going to just stand up out of nowhere and knock this guy out for no reason. It's not that type of situation. It's not like when you're watching like the Black Beast out there and he's just loafing and then he's just looking for a chance to unload a bomb. Like, he's not a 260-pound dude that is winging ham hocks. It requires speed and precision, and he literally had none of that left by that 5th round. So, they let him take a beating that he didn't need. So
general performance-wise, it's time.
Yeah, I'm not. If you tell me Jose Aldo is fighting another fight, I'm not even interested in watching it. I don't care if he wins or he doesn't win. I'm just not. I'm not interested.
I'm not either, because there's just too much chance that you're just going to see the guy get mauled.
Yep.
He started fighting when he was really young. He's 33 now. Which is not.
It's not
end
that
of the
old.
Line. Yeah, he's not. It's not end of the line for most fighters.
But in
at
his
this
fight
point,
years,
it just looks like he's done.
Especially at these weight classes.
Yeah.
Because you just can't be a step behind, or you can't be losing your conditioning on a fight that you knew about for at least most of a full training camp in the middle of the 3rd round, and you're a long-time champion. No, you're done.
Yeah, it's just time. Not everybody's gonna have that little Arlovsky comeback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's just not possible.
No.
But that's the thing about the heavyweight division, is that it affords you that opportunity to live on a little bit longer than you would in the lighter weight divisions. Because as soon as you lose a step under 170 pounds, you're toast.
Yeah, the speed factor is totally different.
Yep.
With those lower weight classes, with the higher weight classes, speed is a little bit less of a concern.
Yep.
Because you don't have heavyweights going super fast like flyweights.
Yeah, it's not the same same situation.
Right. So next fight was Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. I heard a lot of talk about this fight before I actually watched it. And what did you think?
Okay, so good fight. Max Holloway put a beating on Volkanovski through the first 2 rounds.
Yes.
Volkanovski started to find his way during the 3rd round, but I still didn't feel like it was anything less than a 3rd round for Max in a row, because I didn't see anything that suggested to me that Volkanovski had taken off with it. Round 4 was clearly Volkanovski's round. He did a lot more work in that round. He outworked him, but Holloway wasn't damaged. Like, it wasn't like a blowout round, but it was a clear win for Volkanovski. And in my opinion, Max Holloway did enough in the 5th round to win that fight. Like, to win the 4 to 1. But then we got these fucking judges again. Like, what did you think?
I pretty much am in line with you. I thought round 3, Volkanovski started turning it around. But
it wasn't enough to win that round.
No. But I could see the judges giving him the 1 round.
Right.
But not more than that.
Yep.
Holloway, to me, dominated most of the fight.
All right, he put him down in both the 1st round and the 2nd round. Like, literally, on his ass. And then, I don't think he loafed in the 3rd round, but he was taking it, he was being cautious. But he was still winning that fight. He was outworking him. He did get outworked in the 4th round. Like, I know that Volkanovski threw more punches and kicks in that round. But then the 5th round was so tight when it comes to total strikes landed that, I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's no way that Holloway didn't win this fight. And then the judges.
That's the problem. It's always the judges.
So we had a split decision, 47-48, 48-47, 48-47 for Volkanovski. And I'm just looking at it like, how is this possible? And then it brings me into that conspiracy realm, because I know they're eyeing up going back to Australia or New Zealand, and it pays a lot more to have Volkanovski be your champion and Israel Adesanya be your champion and show up down under that way.
And that's what kills me, because it goes back to what we discussed before about the way UFC is and how it's become much more like pro wrestling.
Yep.
Where they book it in advance. It's like, it's not an athletic contest anymore. It's like, okay, we're going to have our guy go over here so that we can go to Australia and we have our Australian guy on top.
Yep.
And it just drives me crazy. But I wasn't even thinking of it that way, but now that you mention it, it's like, I could see that being the plan.
Well, I already know that they have something like on the books planned to be down in either New Zealand or Australia in the coming months. Well, before the end of the year, but that's if COVID allows it to happen.
That's what I was just going to say. That like it's all tentative, because who knows what's going to happen with COVID at this point.
Now, what I want to know is, how does this fuck with Max Holloway's head? Because technically, I think he won both those fights.
I mean, publicly, he's just brushing it off, because I know he was on Twitter. I forget exactly what he said, but he's like, you know what? Whatever, I'm not sweating it. On to the next challenge.
Yeah, but I worry that it's going to start to get into his head. And every time he goes into a fight, he's going to be thinking, I can't go to the judges because they're never going to see it my way.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that thinking. That's always been part of my thing with decisions in general. It's like, you know what? Like they always say, don't leave it in the hands of the judges.
Yeah, because they're going to fuck you.
Because they're going to fuck you. Because that's what they do. I mean, was Cecil Peoples one of these judges?
I didn't look it up, but I should probably figure that
out. It's not on the Wikipedia, I don't think. They don't list the judges, but I'm curious. See if he does his, Oh,
God. That guy is terrible.
I just keep thinking of him as a ref doing that stupid fucking pose.
Let's get it on.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
If that
you don't know, go look it
guy.
up. Go on YouTube and look up Cecil Peoples.
Look up Cecil Peoples referee.
Yeah, you'll hate to love it.
He's known as a judge, but if you look at him as a referee, he does this stupid little move. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like it's some halfway Karate Kid bullshit to start the fights as a referee, and it's just like it makes you want to just slap the shit out of him.
So my problem with Cecil Peoples, beyond that, is that he publicly went on record saying that leg kicks don't win fights. And if you've ever seen Jose Aldo versus Uriah Faber, you will know that leg kicks do win fights. Because Uriah Faber's legs looked like the Rocky Meat Factory by the end of that, in the end of round 2, let alone by the end of round 5.
Oh man! And by the way, if you look him up, and go to Google image search,
right,
the very first picture. I mean, everybody's just listening to this, but I'm going to show you real quick. The very first picture is his stupid ass. The very first picture is him doing his stupid Karate Kid bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with that shit.
I hate that guy. I'm done. Get him off my screen.
And I hated him as a judge, and then I went back and saw this shit because I had never seen him as a ref, and it's just like, oh god.
Yeah, get him out of here. Somebody
get this guy out of here.
Oh man. So, yeah, I mean, what it all boils down to is that this fight, I feel like Max Holloway got robbed again, a second time, and I had heard that before. I had heard that before I watched it, but I tried to go into it with an open mind, and yeah, he got robbed. Yeah, There's no two ways about it. And you know that he got robbed because the online booking agencies gave everybody that had money on Max Holloway their money back.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oof, it's bad then.
I think it was Betfair or one of those internet betting companies. They willfully gave everybody that bet just their bet money back on Max. No win money. But they were like, this was such a robbery. No way.
Wow. Has that ever happened before?
I'm not sure, but clearly neither one of us are looking at this wrong.
Oh,
because
wow.
If a company that's set up to make money is giving money back because of a robbery, that means to me that the judges definitely got it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, so that brings us to the final fight of the night,
the main event of the evening.
And how can I place this? I hated watching Johnny Hendricks towards the end of his career because even over the crowd, you could hear his coaches yelling Delta. And to me, and what I took Delta to mean is stall against the cage. Hold the guy against the cage and do pitter-patter offense just to not get separated. Other than the first 30 seconds of this fight and random sparse spots, Jorge Masvidal was just pressed against the cage, looking for a way away from the cage just to get pressed right back into the cage by Kamaru Snoozman. And I call him Snoozman because I really wanted to go to sleep. Now, a little bit about Usman is that I've been up and down on him throughout his UFC career. He came in, I think, off of the Ultimate Fighter show, and he started out primarily as a wrestler, and he found his way to throwing hands and, starting to talk a big game. And, I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, right. I've seen him knock some people out, but I've also seen him grind his way to the most boring decisions since George St. Pierre. Like, just pure wrestling humpery and no actual fighting. And I thought to myself, if he decides to stand and trade with Jorge Masvidal, he's going to get lit up like the Christmas tree in New York City. It's not going to even be like a contest because he just doesn't have those hand skills. So I knew going in that this was potentially going to be boring, but I didn't realize that I was going to just pick up my phone in the middle of the fight and stop paying attention.
I mean, I expected more out of Masvidal.
Off of 6 days notice, I didn't.
But that's true. I mean, I keep forgetting to take that into account. But even then, I would expect him to have a little more hands. I mean, a little more. It just
when he touched him, he was touching him. But
true.
Every time he touched him, he was like, "Oh, I don't want any more of that, and I'm gonna hold you against the cage or attempt to take you down."
Right.
Now, what I will say is that for someone with that wrestling pedigree to only be able to get Masvidal down 4 times with 6 days notice of practice,
no good.
No good. That's no good for him in a full training camp situation with Masvidal. Like, Masvidal is known for showing up to a fight with a 6-pack, and my man kind of looked like me out there almost. I mean, like, he definitely was not svelte like
yeah, he was definitely not on top of his game. But, short notice, okay. But.
And, I've watched all the post-fight work, and he's clearly said, hey, I signed the fight. I can't make excuses. I agree with that 100%. If you didn't think that you could win that fight, you shouldn't have gone there to do it. And
That's what I was just going to say.
I think he thought he had a chance, but you could see that his chance in his mind was to put him out in the first round, get him out of there. And as soon as he realized that it wasn't working, then he went into conserve my energy and only explode in sections so that I can at least make it to the end of this fight.
Ugh.
So, I'd rather have seen him just go all in, blow his entire wad, and get tapped out than to slog through 25 minutes of him being held against the cage and shoulder shrugged and foot stomped. I mean, didn't we stop foot stomping in 2004? Like, aren't we past this? But this is all my man had for him because he knew he was too dangerous to be at range.
Yeah, he wasn't really doing anything
at all. Like, it was so boring. Like, I can't even put into words how boring it. Like, I would have rather watched one of those Anderson Silva fights where the people don't want to actually fight him at all.
Where they just dance around.
Right, they just dance. Like, at least there's suspense in that. Like, is Anderson Silva going to catch him with something randomly? There's no suspense in this fight. We're going to call it 3 minutes into round one, how the rest of the next 22 minutes is going to go. Because he's going to hold you against the cage, he's going to look for a way to take you down, and that's it.
Ugh.
And if I never see Usman fight again, I might be perfectly fine with it. Like, I watched most of that fight with Colby Covington, and because they were so tightly matched with wrestling, they didn't even attempt to wrestle each other. So It was just two dudes with reasonable hand skills just throwing at each other, and Usman just has more power and put him out. But anybody with any true hand skill is gonna smack that dude up, and you have to be preparing to be held against the cage or taken down. And if you can't get away from that, if you're not strong enough to get away from that, don't sign the fucking contract. Just stay home.
Yeah, I think you would have been better off not even taking that fight.
Yep. But he did get paid.
He did get paid, and
I guarantee you he got pay-per-view points.
The most important thing is that the BMF belt was not on the line.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was a BMF decision to go take that fight, but he definitely didn't look good.
No, not at all.
Now, they're saying that the buy rate for this event was 1.3 million people.
I have a very hard time believing that.
If it's true that the buy rate was 1.3 million, that makes Masvidal one of the biggest stars, because if that was Gilbert Burns, that buy rate would be about 250,000.
No. That number just seems very high to me.
The only thing that's propping it up for me in my mind is that there basically are no other sports for people to watch. So
that could be it.
You're gonna get a bump.
And even though it doesn't show outwardly, like maybe it's a combination of that and just curiosity about this whole Fight Island thing.
Yeah.
Like maybe people thought they were going to be fighting on the fucking beach. I don't know.
I would have rather seen them fight on the beach.
Oh, me too.
Let them fight on the beach. Throwing sand, the whole deal. Because at this point, like, it's already half a farce. So let's just take it all the way there.
Yeah, just go all the way.
Yeah, let's just legalize steroids, legalize the drugs, just let Jones come in fully coked up. Like, let's do this. Let's go all the way.
Listen, I told you my main event. Let me book one event. The main event for my event. All drugs are legal. Brock, fully juiced up, versus John Jones with a couple of 8-balls.
And may the best man win.
And just let them go. Because John Jones's head will be in the third row, and he'll still be moving because he doesn't even feel it.
Yep.
Give me that.
I'm down with that.
And that'll be perfect. Yeah. Just let all drugs legal. Let the juice fly. Brock will look like the fucking Hulk.
I mean, already looks like the fucking Hulk. So,
well, yeah.
So the next fight card that's coming up is July 16th. So is that 2 days from now, 3 days from now, something like that. And it's on Yas Island. It's on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi at Fight Island. And the main event is Calvin Kattar versus Dan Iggy. And I'm looking at this card, and I'm just like reading the names. And this is one of those cards that we were talking about earlier, where it's just, I don't understand the point of putting this fucking card on. There's no reason for these fights. You're just jamming me with a bunch of nonsense other than the top two fights.
You know what I compare it to? It's like, all right, we always talk about Idiocracy, okay?
Yeah.
When Idiocracy came out, they didn't want to put it in theaters, but they were required as part of their contract to put it in a certain number of theaters.
Right. And
so to me, this is just contract fulfillment here.
Yeah,
that's all this is.
That is 100% what this is.
Yeah.
So, just for our listeners, the top 5 fights are from bottom up. A catchweight 174-pound thing because somebody isn't going to make weight, and they told him ahead of time, so they signed a new contract. So instead of it being a 170 welterweight fight, it's a catchweight at 174. So Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Munir Lazzez. Don't know Lazzez. Al Hassan is an okay fighter, but whatever. He's not main card material in my opinion. Then you got a women's flyweight fight with Molly McCann and Talia Santos. Don't know either one of these, and I mean, I am a fight nerd.
I think I've heard of Molly McCann somehow.
I'm thinking you're thinking of Sarah McCann.
Maybe.
Because
I mean, she's been around for a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly don't know her. So then, Jimmy Rivera versus Cody Stamann. If you said that this was like a prelim, mid-level prelim fight, or maybe like the last fight on the prelim card before an actual main card, I'd be like, all right, that's cool. But this is like your feature fight in the middle of your main card. It's not that, to me, that is not the fight. Like, this is not it. And then you got flyweights Tim Elliott versus Ryan Benoit, or Benoit. I don't know which way he says it, but again, I don't give a crap about this fight that much. I do like Tim Elliott. He's an interesting fighter, but it's not. This isn't even making me want to watch this card. And it's a Thursday night, and I don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, there's no real draw here.
So, the only fight that I'm actually interested in watching is the headline fight, Calvin Kattar versus Dan Iggy. I think both of them are true up-and-comers, and I'm interested to see where their careers go from here. But in reality, this also is not a main event fight.
And by the way, I'm reading up on this because we're recording this Tuesday night. This fight is scheduled to happen on Thursday. The reason that fight is a catchweight and one of the prelims is a catchweight is because they've already done the weigh-ins for this.
Oh, okay.
So, because I guess,
somebody missed weight.
Like I said, we're doing this Tuesday night, and with the time difference, these fights are probably going to happen like in the next 24 hours.
Yep.
So that's why these two fights, because two people miss weight, so those are both catchweight fights.
Al Hassan weighed in at 174, 3 pounds over the limit. Like, come on, bro. You signed to fight the goddamn fight. Show up on weight. You got 2 jobs as a fighter. Show up on weight and get in the cage. Those are the 2 things you have to do.
Exactly.
Even if you don't train or do anything else, those are the 2 things that contractually you're obligated to do. So if you don't think you're going to make the weight, you should probably pull out ahead of time.
Exactly.
Like, you're just embarrassing yourself.
I know there's a lot of arguments about, over the years about whether weight cutting is healthy or this or that, but you know what? It's part of the sport right now. So if you sign up for it, how can you not make weight?
Yep. Get down to a reasonable weight ahead of time, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. And if you can't do it, like I said, you can make the argument that, oh, we should get rid of that cutting weight stuff, but for now, it's part of the sport.
Yep.
So do it, get it done.
So will you be watching this card? Give it a stamp of approval, yay or nay?
No.
Yeah, this is a nay.
I might go back and watch it later if I hear anything good about it, but I'm not jumping through hoops.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what the actual live time is.
Me either.
You know, this thing could be airing at like 3 a.m. for all I know. But either way, I'm not really... Like, there's nothing that's drawing me in, and I'm not a diehard. Like, I'm not nearly the diehard that you are.
Right.
And if you're barely interested, you can imagine how little interest I have for it.
Yeah, so
I'm recognized maybe 2 names on this whole list.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I recognize 7 names on this entire list. And there are 10 fights, or maybe even 11 fights, so that's 22 people, and I know like 7 names.
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of nonsense. Like, sure, maybe there's going to be something that's like a breakout fight where I'm going to have to go back and like check it out so that I know who they are for the next time. But if they're not impressing me with that, like if I don't hear that something wild happened, they're going to continue to be unknown people to me.
Right. That's the only thing that'll draw my interest. If I hear that some crazy shit happened, that there was some wild knockout or something, then I might be interested in watching a fight or two. But there's nothing... Well, this actually says it says it'll take place on July 16th, but if you look at the flyer, it says Wednesday, July 15th. So I don't know.
Right.
If that's
so it's Wednesday, July 15th.
Yeah.
There, and it'll be the
Thursday
16th here. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why the weigh-ins already happened. So by the time this episode airs, this thing will have already happened.
Yep.
And still nobody will know about it.
I do see something interesting on this Wikipedia. That there was a light heavyweight bout between Timo Fucht versus Kenneth Berg. 2 people I still don't know, but Fucht was pulled off of the fight for unknown reasons. And apparently it was later announced that Fucht was removed from the fight because of past neo-Nazi ties.
I had heard something. I didn't realize that he was on this card, but I did hear something about a UFC guy
getting pulled for that.
Yeah, which, I mean...
It's not surprising at this point.
Certainly not the first time.
Nope. Not at all.
Let me refer you to Gerard Gordeau.
Oh, God.
Who straight Sieg Heiled to all 4 sides of the arena at UFC 2 or 3, whatever that was. Classic moment.
Was it UFC 1?
It might have been... I think he fought on... Yeah, I think he was in the very first UFC fight because that was...
Yeah, it was UFC 1 because he fought Taylor Tooley, Kevin Rosier, and Hoist Gracie. Lost to Hoist Gracie, but he won the other 2 fights.
Yeah.
So he was probably Seaguiling in the, I think, probably the first one, the head kick KO.
I think each one, because he came out at the beginning and did it.
Okay.
And he did it to all 4, same way like some guys have come out and bowed all 4 sides. He came out and threw the hand right up.
Oh,
and I remember that. And I remember that also because, I mean, the story's out there. I read about it in John McCarthy's book. Mm-hmm. But that very first UFC fight with the sumo guy, the guy goes down and then he kicks him right in the face. Mm-hmm. And Gerard Gordeau had a tooth stuck in his foot.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
And they didn't know what to do, so one of the teeth was actually embedded in his foot. They ended up putting tape over it because they couldn't take it out so that he could fly. Because back in the day, if you're listening and you don't know, when UFC started, it was a one-night tournament.
Yep. You fight 3 times in the night.
He fight 3 times. Gerard Gordeau went to the final and lost to Royce Gracie in the final, but he fought 3 times that night, and 2 of those fights he went in with a tooth stuck in his fucking foot.
Insanity.
And John McCarthy was not a ref at that point, but he was sitting. He was friends with the Gracie family and was sitting cage side. And he said another tooth just went flying right past him.
That's crazy. So I just looked up Gordeau, and they actually talk about that situation in the Wikipedia. So it says that appeared that he was doing the Roman salute before the match, where they were accusing of being a neo-Nazi, but he explains that he was actually doing the traditional Savate salute. And in fact, he's got a Jewish ethnic background because his dad is Jewish from France. So,
that's bizarre.
It is bizarre. Like, he was either doing it and he's just backing down, or he just didn't realize that he was going to do something that was going to cause such controversy. Either way, it's still not the first time that anybody in MMA has been tied to neo-Nazi nonsense.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Well, I'm not looking forward to this card. The UFC 251 was, it was an okay card to pass the time on a Saturday with nothing else to do. The headline fights were great, other than the main attraction. So if they had just cut that out, I would have said it was a stellar card.
And by the way, you got that, and then they have another card on Saturday.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Another one on Saturday?
Yeah, another one on Saturday. And then the next one...
Figueroa versus Benavidez?
Benavidez, yes. That is the one. And then after that, the next one is on the 26th.
So is Figueroa going to actually make weight this time so that when he beats Benavidez a second time, he can actually be the champion? Or is he going to miss weight again?
Is he going to blow it again? Well, actually, one of those fights is already listed as a catch weight, so I wonder if they did... I can't imagine they did the weigh-in already.
I don't know.
One of the prelim fights is listed as a 150-pound catch weight. I don't know why.
That dude, somebody probably said, hey, let's rewrite this contract because I'm not going to make weight.
Maybe.
This is a better card, but it's still nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I don't see much here that interests me either, honestly. I'm not a fan of Kelvin Gastelum.
I don't hate him, but I also don't. I just don't care. Like, he doesn't make me
care. That's what I mean. I don't hate the guy, but I'm just not. Like, I've seen him fight. He doesn't interest me.
See, like, looking at this card for Saturday, name of the event is UFC Fight Night Figueroa versus Benavidez 2, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus, and I believe that's pretty much the only place you're going to catch that, or maybe it'll be on regular ESPN. Anyway, looking at this is another about 10, 12 fight card or so, and there's like 8 names I know on it. Like, Joe Duffy is one of the guys that beat Connor back in the day. He was the first guy to put a little X next to that name, but he's done nothing basically since, and he kind of is just kicking it around in the UFC, winning a few, losing a few, no big deal. But then I do like Alexander Pantoja. I think he's actually a really good fighter, and he's got the chance to make some noise if he can really kind of put it all together. And then Mark Diakiese is interesting when he's matched up right. If you match him up with a wrestler, it's not fun to watch.
Yeah.
Hermanson versus Kelvin Gastelum, it should be a good fight. I don't really care about either one of them enough to tune into this, but if I'm not doing anything on Saturday, I guess I'll watch. And then Figueroa versus Benavidez, I already know how this is going to go. We watched it already. Like, I think Joe Ben is on his last legs as well. Like,
yeah,
he's been around forever. And like, this is his last chance to get a fucking title. And if he can't pull this out at this point, he might as well just pack it in. Because like, what are you getting at? You're not getting better.
No, definitely not.
And you're the perennial number 1 or number 2 that can't win the title fight. So like, it might be time to set sail if you can't win this fucking fight.
And I looked it up, by the way. That fight card is only available on ESPN Plus. Yes.
So, anyway, for me, that's the wrap up of the week for the UFC work, and we don't have any other fights coming up in any other divisions. So, no Bellator, no one, no etc. etc.
I mean, if Bellator could get their own island, things would be different. You know.
Oh God. Fight Island.
Just get yourself an island. Like everybody should have a friend. Everybody should have an island.
Just bald-headed fuck. That's all I can think of.
How does he still have a job at this point?
Because there's nobody else that wants to take on this headache. That's really what it comes down to.
It's just not going to go. Once the time finally comes, there's going to be nothing left.
I mean, I would argue that without Dana White, the UFC folds. I'm not going to call it folds, but it turns into something that you won't even recognize.
I agree.
It's going to be a whole new situation.
It goes to the comparison again. Although I can't, you know what? I can't even draw this comparison. I was going to say it goes back to the Vince McMahon comparison, but Vince McMahon has Triple H. Vince McMahon has his son
family.
and his daughter.
Yep.
Dana White, there's nobody under Dana White.
Yep. And so there's no Fertitta brothers
gone,
like holding the reins, keeping the things going the way that they should be going. And you know, it's become a corporate entity. And I think it will crumble under the weight of itself as time goes on.
I agree, and I think a lot of the other stuff we were talking about is going to contribute to that.
Yep.
Like just pumping out cards and not building stars and not having anybody to really use as a mainstream draw.
Yep.
You know, you can't really promote it, you know. It goes back to those old days at that point when UFC was like a mainstream thing, when the Ultimate Fighter was on, and you could put a guy like Tito on Good Morning America or something. Now,
yeah, can't do it now.
They don't have anybody that anybody would give a shit about.
Ronda walked, and you know her star was tarnished before she walked, but right. Ronda walked, and John Jones is unsellable. Conor McGregor is unsellable. So what do you got left? And honestly, the last person they had that they could have sold, but they spent no time actually building him up to do so, was DJ.
Yep.
Like, consummate professional, always shows up on weight and ready to do the job, and virtually unbeatable. So,
absolutely.
Like, they dropped the ball on that, not him. He did everything that he was supposed to do. What was it, like 12 defenses?
That's it. We're good to go. This is a bonus episode. Thanks for supporting the upgrade, and we will see you guys soon. We'll have a couple more bonus episodes coming in the next couple of weeks, and we got some guests coming up that you guys are definitely going to enjoy.
Yes.
So once again, the upgradepodcast.net is the place to go to find all the fun stuff. So hit us up. We'll see you soon. My name is Gary Muttley. He is Len Carmichael.
Have a nice night.
See you soon.